Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
It's got Star Trek. Episode 48. Discovery, Season 3, Episode 2. Far From Home.
It's so weird. I mean, there's a giant hunk of planet hanging there in the sky. Wish we had the time to figure out how all this works. Sorry, sir, I'm talking because I'm scared.
I know. Keep talking, Ensign.
You know, on the ship I said the scans were odd or strange, but it's not true. We're odd and strange.
Not to each other.
Thank you for asking me to accompany you, sir. Why did you ask me to accompany you, sir?
I needed an engineer.
The ship's full of engineers. Giorgio's an engineer.
An engineer I can trust.
She thinks I'm useless.
She's concerned for Michael and lacks the self-awareness to control her behavior in such an unsettled state. We are introducing ourselves to the future. You, Ensign Tilly, are a wonderful first impression.
This is how little I remember from the last season. I remember the basics, but it's starting to worry me because when they showed the opening thing of last time on last season
Previously on Star Trek Discovery.
Antecedently on Fargo, or whatever they do. They always say some weird word. I totally forgot about, oh yeah, there was a character named Leland who was a bad guy.
You forgot about...
Yeah, I just was like, oh yeah. And as soon as I see it, it all comes back to me. But, you know, it's just out of my head.
I had almost the reverse reaction in that I don't think you really need to know much of that. It's there if you need it, but it seems that this storyline, I don't know. Maybe it'll loop back somehow. Maybe Control will be involved. Mm-hmm. By the way, welcome to the It's Got Star Trek podcast. Oh, yeah. Right. Already in progress. This is, which episode is it?
If you're tuning in now, you're late.
Oh, it's episode 48.
Episode 48.
It's Discovery Season 3, Episode 2.
That's right. And what's the name of the episode?
Well, the name of it is Far From Home, and it's just Far From Home. But the first episode was like... Yeah, I Hope It's You Part 1 or something.
It was That Hope Is You.
That Hope Is You.
But yeah, it's called Part 1.
Because presumably there will be a Part 2 at some point.
Wait, why would they do it like that?
I see.
Because they do that.
Some sort of linear
Who does that?
Switch up.
So, for example, if you look at the episode titles that have been released, one of them is Unification 3. So people are wondering if that is going to be connected to TNG's Unifications Part 1 and 2 about reuniting the Vulcans and the Romulans. Maybe that's already happened at this juncture in time, given that our old friend Spock and his old friend Picard had vested interests in rejoining the Vulcans and the Romulans.
So, speaking of, once again, of remembering things, I mean, this is how bad it is for me. I'll watch it, and this relates, but I'll watch a show. When I watch a series of shows on, whatever streaming service or whatever I'm using, when I watch the next episode, if it's the next day, I will go back and watch the last 2 to 5 minutes of the previous episode, maybe even just the last 45 seconds, just to sort of remind me of the entire episode prior. And so I'm not even remembering what happened to... I mean, I guess, yeah, Spock and Pike went to the Enterprise. But did they actually say he went to the Enterprise? What was the deal? How did
towards the end of the last episode, the season 2 finale?
Pike was already on the Enterprise.
He was commanding
Spock was going to go with him into the future, but his engines failed.
Oh, right.
His shuttlecraft failed.
And that's why she had to send her Iron Person suit back. Her dark iron angel suit.
That was the signal, yeah.
I don't mean angel as in a feminine thing. I mean, it's like an angel that has wings.
Yeah, the red angel suit is what I think it was colloquially known by. Well, so you're all good.
I'm so cool. I'm so all good.
It's a good question. I'm curious if anyone out there in the audience has any opinions on this, but the serialized nature of the storytelling, maybe for some people that makes that easier to retain and follow, but it also makes it a little harder. Right? Because if you're watching Best of Both Worlds Part 2, you really only need to remember Best of Both Worlds Part 1. Right. It's great if you've seen everything else, but you don't need to have seen it. But the story that concluded in Discovery Season 2 relies on more information that was solely included in that particular episode, right? Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, as I mentioned, I get the impression that we're not, we're getting past that. We're moving past all that.
Yeah, there are little bits of information that are relevant to what's happening with characters, but not particularly relevant to this story.
Sure.
Like, for example, where's Pike and Spock? I mean, that was relevant because she sent the suit back. But point being is, they do a pretty good job, too, of the summation at the beginning of the episode telling you sort of what's going on. But yeah, it feels, we sort of said this last week, it does feel like they're really... I don't want to say they're ignoring past stuff because we don't know that yet. It's too early. But what's the deal with the mycelial network now and Stamets? Because like he doesn't seem to be as... He started off as this grumpy kind of guy, and then he went to the mycelial network and he seemed like all floofity doofity.
Right.
And now he's kind of
back to being a little grumpy again.
Yeah, a little curmudgeon-y, right? Yeah,
I have no doubt it'll come up. I think even in some of the previews that you see the Discovery. That's a good sign if I'm mistakenly calling it the Enterprise. You see the Discovery, doing the spore drive thing, and in a universe where warp drive is not working as well and dilithium is in short supply, then that could be a great advantage. I mean, I guess it's the same advantage it was originally, but
they seem to have plenty of rubidium.
Yeah,
that Discovery needs.
Yeah, at this mining planet anyway that they've come to. So anyway, I guess just real quick, just to introduce everything, we're excited to talk about this episode. If it wasn't clear already, episode 2, season 3, Far From Home. Last week we were with Michael Burnham and we saw her whole initial arriving in this time. This week it's the opposite. We're seeing the Discovery perspective, and quite a different perspective. Michael Burnham was on her own. This is the whole remainder of the crew, along with a few bonus stragglers, and but a lot of the same stuff comes up, right? A lot of this, like when Tilly detects life forms. They're all like, ooh, there's life. That means Control didn't win. Mm. That's something that you'd kind of have to know, that the whole goal of Control, the crazy nanobot monster, was to sort of reorganize the universe to its own ends. And the revelation that there's life for both Burnham and Tilly is like, oh, cool. That means we won. We won that particular battle.
Yeah, which is...
They had a more subdued reaction, though. Tilly and Saru.
Yeah.
Than Michael Burnham.
Yeah. But Michael Burnham, definitely. She's more... Which is weird, because Tilly is, I guess, not more emotional. She's just more... She gets carried away.
She gets very excited.
Maybe
Burnham's learned a little bit from her, and maybe Tilly's learned a little bit from Burnham. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I feel like, it's lame to point out, but just I can mention this and we can move on, but...
I'm excited.
They land on the planet, all right?
Crash land.
They crash land on it, but they were going for Terralesium, which they never got. I can't remember what the deal with Terralesium's supposed to be. I forget.
That's the planet they go to
there was some weird Earthling peeps from like the 21st century or
from the World War III. They were kidnapped by Burnham's mom. That's
the big one, man.
None of this needs to be known. That's the thing, is I think they're very smart because it is a confusing storyline. It was entertaining in season 2, but there's a lot to it.
Yeah, you wonder how much they're trying to reboot not reboot the series, but restart it, I guess.
Which is fine. I mean, other shows that are serialized can do that too. They don't have to tell a story, one whole story arc over multiple seasons. I think this actually is a better model in a lot of ways for this type of show. You get a little of the best of the both worlds.
I absolutely totally agree, and the vibe of the show itself just feels a lot different. Mm-hmm. The Terralesium, I guess that's where they left from. Whatever. Anyways. They crash land on this planet, and
which, by the way, we know was, I guess, a mining planet of some sort. Maybe there was a bunch of dilithium there at one point, and the planet is all exploded like it is because of the burn. They don't seem to state that explicitly, but I think that's what we're supposed to think.
Probably.
Yeah. The sky dirt was kind of weird, because why is there floating dirt? Now we already know that there's pockets of oxygen that are higher in the atmosphere than other parts, and they're assuming that is of intelligent design. I don't want to say man-made. It's a person-made.
Artificial.
That's the word I can go for. Yeah. It's artificial pockets, so it's not a natural occurrence on the planet. So you could maybe think that the sky dirt is not a natural occurrence on the planet too, because they have all that anti-gravity. What, the Mercado, or no, it's not the Mercado. What was the place where they went to?
Pirates of Penzance.
Mercantile.
The Mercantile, yeah.
Mercantile. Yes, thank you. The Mercantile was all super, which was super floaty, and so maybe there was something super floaty there too, and exploded, and
I thought it was just natural. I thought the planet had some catastrophe, and those were just chunks that were still kind of they sort
like
of
a
settled
picture
in.
from like a magic card or something.
Maybe the gravity was all weird because half the planet had blown apart. I don't know how realistic it is physics wise.
Yeah.
If my supposition is correct that it was just that's the remnants of some explosion.
There's a solid possibility that they'll never really address it because it doesn't really matter. But it's kind of
it looks cool.
It looks awesome.
With the Iceland and those special effects added in, that's some alien ass environment.
I thought that was super. I think they're doing a great job with giving the visuals and the feeling like you're in these different new
drone
places.
Shots. Flying over the black sands and things.
Yeah, they did the same shot. Speaking of the Mercantile, they did the same shot when Tilly and Saru left to go over to find the settlement of 50 people. Mm-hmm. They did the shot where they, went over the land and you didn't know where it was going or what it was doing, but all of a sudden you see two people, Saru and Tilly, off in the distance, and it zooms up to them. They did that same shot with Burnham and Book when he was walking around when they were walking on that long pathway in the Mercantile. They did the same thing, and it's cool. I like it. I dig it.
These two episodes have been really brilliantly directed. Let me just look up the name real quick. I think it's Olatunde Osunsanmi.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Brilliant director. He's directed before. He's actually one of the main producers now on the show. So he has a lot of voice. He's adding a lot of voice to the show. Both of these episodes directed in somewhat different styles, but really, I think, effective. And we can talk about some of the effective things, but I think starting right from the beginning of the cold open, where we see the previously on Discovery, and it's all exciting and mega, right? And then we see darkness and lights and Detmer with her eyes wide open. And it's really disturbing as they're kind of coming out of whatever experience they had going through the wormhole. And one thing I liked about that, not just visually and introducing us, through their perspective of awakening in this new future, I like it when things like going through time are not easy. It's like it fucked them up.
Yeah. It actually took them to a different time period and a different place than Burnham did.
Than expected.
But I want to real quick just bring back what I was originally trying to say of I just want to bring this up, and it's not really important. It's just one of the things that kind of reminded me of a scene in Picard with the Borg cube, where they crash landed on this planet. There just so happened to be life on the planet, and it just so happened to be within a reasonable walking distance of right there. You know what I mean? They just so happened on this shit. And space is empty. It's hard to find life, but they just stumbled upon it. And that reminded me of the Borg cube of the scenes where they crash landed on that planet, the AI planet, not the AI planet, but the people.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and they're all in the Borg cube. The Borg cube's fucking enormous. There's a cool video you can look at online that compares the sizes. It's just a continual comparison with a lot of stuff to maintain perspective of different fantasy and sci-fi ships and things like that, and one of them was the Borg cube. It's fucking enormous.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and it's.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
You saw it.
When you see the
I think
Romulan,
it's a guy named Alvaro something or something.
The Romulan ships next to it. You see the Romulan ships next to the Enterprise D and how big they are compared to the Enterprise D, and then you see Romulan ships next to the Borg cubes, and you're like, shit.
And the Enterprise D is a lot bigger than other Enterprise.
It's like 7 times the size of the Constitution class.
Yeah. So. Then they were all doing some shit when it landed, it was 7 of 9 and all those folks were checking out this crashed Borg cube. And then it just so happened that, what's his name? The scary hot elf dude, the cute hot elf dude in Picard.
Yeah, Legolas,
yeah. When he escaped from Mordor, he ran in there and I think it was him, but it was someone. I think it was him. And he just so happened to walk through the same spot they were walking to inside the Borg cube, which is... It's unlikely at best, but
dramatic license.
Yeah, exactly. So it's fine. It's just I wanted to point it out that it's like really. I mean, it's fine because I thought the episode was awesome.
Remember that time, the Enterprise showed up and Kirk and Spock beamed down, and it was a planet full of gangsters.
I know. We're not I know. It's like we're gonna nitpick about realism, but
no, it's fun. It is fun to point these things out, and it is great when things lean a little bit more realistic. But Star Trek is it different than The Expanse, for example. The Expanse is sci-fi. It's definitely sci-fi, but it veers more towards the harder, trying to be closer to realistic sci-fi.
I mean, presumably they landed close enough to that settlement that Zara thought that Tilly could get back in time, although that's questionable. It seems like he was setting her up.
Well, it's also you have different purposes for different shows, right? The Expanse and Battlestar Galactica, right? They're shows that are really examining a lot of political themes. And political themes, you can do them in Star Trek and Star Wars, but they work better in The Expanse or in Battlestar Galactica because of trying to be a little bit more realistic, because the plots require that, scheming and backstabbing over the course of a season and stuff, right?
The plot breaks down more when there's an expectation of like less coincidence kind of stuff. Like if that happened in The Expanse, it might be a little less
problematic.
Yeah.
But in Star Trek is it is political. It is often political, but it is not telling political stories for the most part. Here and there, Deep Space Nine got the closest in terms of looking at the political machinations on Bajor with Kai Wynn and with the Cardassians and with all the other powers, right? So Deep Space Nine did it pretty well, and they incorporated it more than the other shows. But Discovery and TNG, Enterprise, they touch on it here and there. They have some ongoing things, but the main goal of each episode or of each season is to, have some message in theory. They don't always conceive the message well, and they don't always execute it well, but that's the goal. So I think it's just sort of like different shows are coming at things from different perspectives. And so in Star Trek, that kind of thing, it's a little less relevant. I don't get as mad about it, right? I would get more mad if they had an alien race that wasn't supposed to be there for some reason in the internal canon of Star Trek.
Yeah,
that would be aggravating.
I see what you're saying.
But in terms of the realism, it's a little less relevant.
They did go through the effort of having Saru say a line where he was like, "We're going to get you to the doctor." I forgot his name. What's the doctor? Culber. Yes, that's what I wanted to say.
He's so sweet.
He is super sweet.
He's awesome.
They did have a line that said, "We're going to go to Dr. Culber, and he's going to mess with our Ghiblies to make sure that we can survive in this atmosphere." So that was something, I guess.
Yeah, but, that's the purpose of technobabble, right?
Yeah, right. But so we were talking about the time they got fucked up, the quickie opening, and them getting fucked up by going through time, and Lieutenant Derby or Detmer.
Lieutenant Derby.
She's getting fucked up again, like she did in the first season.
I think it's there's been a lot of discussion online about what the deal is with Detmer. So
shell-shocked, it seems.
So what we see is they come through the wormhole. They're all disoriented.
Real quick, I don't know anything about being shell-shocked. That's an ignorant thing for me to say, but that's based on my knowledge of movies and TV. That's what shell-shocked is like. Well, did you see Saving Private Ryan?
The new term for it is PTSD, but I know you want to say shell-shocked because of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game.
I thought though in shell-shocked. I thought like for example in Saving Private Ryan, it's specifically
that's the old term. We call it.
No, but I'm saying PTSD is more of a. I'm not gonna.
Oh, you mean the concussions in the head?
Like when momentarily you're in shock and the whole world sort of stops.
Yeah, I got you. No, that's fair. I mean, okay. None of us know what the fuck we're talking about here.
So she was just fucked up.
I think World War II they called it combat fatigue or battle fatigue, and then
in sports they call it exhaustion.
Shell shocked was more like World War I.
Yeah, in the first Gulf War they called it Battletoads.
Okay, yeah, Battletoads.
Yeah, which it was impossible to fucking beat.
Let's kick shell.
Got harder to play Battletoads with somebody.
Yes.
Yeah,
it was. I'm going to use the
always
word.
Fucking each other up.
This is a word. Is this an appropriate use of the word objective? Because I wouldn't use it normally like this, but I'm about to now. It's objectively harder with two people.
Yes, I think it is. You can measure that. You can measure the fact that you're trying to climb up those goddamn Battletoad ropes, and your Battletoad buddy is bumping into your ass, and you're falling off the rope.
I remember that. Yeah, fuck that.
I still wouldn't say it like that, but that's okay.
But Detmer is the piloting the ship, and she comes up with
kills it.
Well, you mean that in a positive way, or do you mean
that's what I meant. Like she
killed the ship.
She landed that shit.
Sorry, she did it.
She killed the monster face guy.
She landed it right on the planet.
So
Monster face.
Detmer is a pilot. I forget was it maybe the first season. She brags about getting her pilot license at 12. She loves being a pilot. She already was involved in a pretty fucked up situation when she was piloting the Shenzhou, right? And then now she's again at the helm of of a Starfleet ship doing her job. Saru, by the way, who's doing an amazing job commanding in a time of crisis. He's saying all the exact correct
super
things.
Calm and
he's super chill about it.
He embraces people sort of like Tilly is self-conscious about her talking, and he's like embraces that about her because
he's really doing a great job here. But he asks Detmer for a recommendation, and she suggests the whole doing a thermal roll thing, which is similar to what they I don't know if they still utilize this at all in space travel, but Apollo Gemini folks, they called it a barbecue roll because it was about the sun was like beating down on one side of the spacecraft and the other, and then you could save some stresses by like rotating it. It was somehow beneficial.
At first, I thought. The first time I watched it through, I thought they were pulling a thing like in Flight with Denzel Washington where they were landing upside down. I was like, wait, they're not upside down. And it's just entering the atmosphere. Because it was also misleading because they went through the ground, but that ground was just sky dirt.
Floating sky dirt. Yeah. So I had to, it took a second viewing before I fully understood what was happening as well, which was that they were turning upside down so that they could save energy for the lower shields and use the upper shields for going through the atmosphere, and then turn back right before the crash, which is what they did, so that now their shields, their dorsal or whatever you call that, shields are all kick-ass and fully charged.
Yeah, it's pretty slick.
Yeah, and the special effects were cool. It was edited in an exciting fashion. The music was cool.
They didn't explain everything, why they were doing everything, which is fine. Sometimes shows over-explain stuff and it takes away from it. And so I just think this was cool that they didn't bother
to explain it. Watching them work.
Yeah, and so, like, for example, shooting the graviton beam on the ground, presumably, I guess that's to break the shit apart to make it a softer landing.
Yeah, or just provide some outward force, maybe. I don't know, more than the thrusters.
Yeah,
maybe a little of both.
Yeah. So, I mean, and they didn't really say exactly why they were doing that, but that's fine. I'm glad that they didn't. They don't need to hold my hand on everything. But they did want, like, really dense, thick, 50 meters thick was the ice.
I think so. They weren't going to crash into ground. So ice is, I guess, theoretically softer than ground.
Yeah, but it really
physicists out there tell us if there's any physicists and engineers.
Presuming that landing on non-ice wouldn't have killed them, they really fucked up with that decision. But how are they supposed to know there was parasitic ice they were landing on?
Yeah, right. All right, so that's the cold open scene there.
Nobody's even ever heard of parasitic ice.
No, it's a new thing.
It's not even that parasitic. It's just more like aggressive.
It's just creepy. It's this creepy ice. It's all like,
but she
predatory ice.
She flew over the console, which I appreciated, as opposed to being zapped by a console.
I think we see a lot of examples in this episode of where they're having to actually deal with and sort through the after effects of a decision they made, which is going through the wormhole, traveling to the future. They're all like temporally distorted, passed
She flipped
out.
over that fucking console.
They wake up, they crash their ship into a weird half planet, and Detmer flies the fuck over the console for real. The console doesn't explode in her face. She just gets fucking,
We don't know the specifics of what her implant does, because I guess that could be acting up as well. You'd always say that, but it seems more like she's traumatized or she's got a concussed.
I think I agree with the consensus on the. We'll see, but the consensus on the internet, consensus may not be fair, but it seems like most people seem to think that it is going to be a PTSD style storyline.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
And the main reason why I buy into it is A, it sort of makes sense, and B, a lot of people who purported to have PTSD said that's exactly what I look like when I look in the mirror. And that's what I behaved like. So they think that's what they're going for.
Yeah, and so we're perfectly clear. When I said shell-shocked, I wasn't referring to
shell-shocked.
I wasn't referring to PTSD in my mind. I was referring to some momentary condition. So
there might be an actual name for that.
Yeah. Concussive injury, something or other, like football players get.
Concussive event or something.
Well, so now we stream into Act 1. right? So after the credits, and firstly, we don't get to see this too often on Star Trek shows where the whole episode is, they're doing a lot of maintenance and trying to fix stuff. I mean, we've seen similar stuff before, but this is pretty intense. It's like long period intensity.
It's like the fire at the circus.
Yeah, or I was thinking like in Star Trek 2 when, they get attacked by Khan. And then, all the trainees a lot of them get killed.
I think it's more like the fire at the circus.
He stayed at his post.
I think
what is this?
When the other trainees ran.
Well, I'm just saying it's like the fire at the circus because it's intense.
Oh God.
Oh man.
He slipped. I'm sorry, folks. He slipped that one in there.
Fire
I
at
did
the
not.
circus.
Normally my hackles are up, and I can sense it coming. I did not. I thought that was going to be a legitimate analogy. I apologize.
It sounds like the name of a band from like the early 2000s or something. Fire at the circus.
Totally.
So, all right. So we're seeing them trying to, get the ship back together. Saru is doing a great job commanding. He's standing up to Giorgio, which is fantastic. I like seeing that.
Yeah.
She seems to kind of she's bristling at it, but I think she thinks it's kind of cool. But it also sort of made me think, like, we're seeing a lot of semi-dark stuff in this episode, but all with a message of hope throughout. And a lot of that is coming from Saru himself. He's exuding that, saying like, no, we're gonna do things the way we're supposed to do them, and we're gonna get it done. And when he says it, you believe him, right? Even when things look pretty fucking grim.
He's totally different from when he shed his receptors in the season 2, was it? That when he his fear receptors, he shed those off.
Yeah, that was in season 2, yeah.
Yeah, and he's totally different now because he's still cautious, but he's not you don't get the feeling that it's fearful.
He's not hiding, yeah.
He's confident. He's just being prudent or shrewd.
Was he shooting something from his neck?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess we could talk about that later. But
Well, when his ganglia, his fear ganglia, when they fell off, which he thought meant he was going to die because that's what the propagandists told him on his planet.
Right.
It actually made it that's when they turned into like super strong, awesome dudes,
Right.
and dudettes.
Yeah, it's like turned into this sort of fearful shrink away device to this awesome gonna go on the offense and fuck your face.
I'm going to run like a horse because I got horse feet.
Yeah, and I'm gonna swish around when I walk. There was a lot of arm swishing from Saru going on.
Yeah, so Saru was great this entire episode. We'll highlight a couple of those as we move along. Tig Notaro, we see right up front.
Tig Notaro is really great.
She's even. I mean,
she is fantastic.
When she first appeared, I was like, oh, I love Tig Notaro, but I felt she was a little. It seemed a little stiff to me, and maybe that's just me warming up to her character because I feel like her performance is better, or it's just I'm warmed up to her style.
I think you're warmed
character.
up to her. I mean, I liked her straight away. I liked her because of the contrast to a lot of the characters we are dealing with. Michael Burnham and Tilly and Saru and Tig Notaro shows up and she's this dry, matter of fact engineer,
like bebopping and scatting all over everybody. Like she's just like she's a comedian, so she's got this crazy delivery and timing, and she's
So if you want to hear a great interview with Tig, listen to the most recent episode of the Pod Directive, which is the official Star Trek podcast with Tawny Newsome, who plays Mariner, and Paul F. Tompkins. They're the main hosts. Paul F. Tompkins also played a role. He played the Bird psychiatrist.
Dr. Miglimu.
Yeah, Dr. Bird on Lower Decks. The podcast is great. Every episode I've enjoyed, but the one with Tig Notaro was really fun and interesting. And she comments on how difficult the technobabble was for her, and that it really stressed her the fuck out.
Yeah.
Which I thought it was cool to hear that. And then now when I watch her do it, I'm thinking she's doing such a great job of it. But you hear the behind the scenes where it was some sort of like horrifying experience. But she says she's really enjoyed being part of the show. I
think the first thing she said for Technobabble in this episode, she said when their shit was all fucked up, she goes, they got a plasma manifold rupture, find and fix all the blown EPS relays and conduits on the ship, which it's too intense technobabble, but yeah, there's a lot of that stuff going on.
There was also
I don't know who did it, but somebody did the when are we thing. Sensors are not responding, we don't know where, and we don't know when we are served. They did that thing. Anyway.
Well, they were all expecting to go into the future.
Michael Burnham did that in the first episode.
Yeah, they did another couple when we are things later on. So,
some people are getting around to fixing the ship, and then we see Culber getting around to fixing up Stamets, and there was that wonderful transition where Stamets is, in a coma, and it zooms in on him, and then as Culber puts the hypospray in him, and then as it pulls back, he wakes up to like all this cacophony and all these people running around and blood everywhere. Really elegant. I thought that was well executed.
I don't remember like why he had the it was a 7-inch shard of duranium alloy that impaled him.
It was just part of the battle. The last battle.
Yeah, they were trying to get the suit out to the launch
in the last
bay or
season.
something.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yes, at the end of last season.
There was some turbulence and everybody fell down and he got fucked up with some shard.
Not a good kind of shard. Sometimes shards are good, and like you
he was all making funny noises. He had this weird look on his face, and he was making funny noises like he just got impaled with it.
Yeah.
Luckily, he has Culber, both a capable doctor and a loving partner.
Yeah.
To help him out.
So yeah, he didn't. So it was touch and go with Culber for a while. We thought. I mean, the impression that I got. I'll speak for myself, but he was basically gone, but somehow he came back, and like it was still kind of weird, but he's back. He's just good.
Culber himself,
just good.
Yeah, they've resolved that, and it's another thing that's sort of semi-rebooted.
They're all back together.
It didn't come out of nowhere, but they had this plot line the last season where, for various reasons that we won't have to go into, that Culber kind of was renewed and affected the relationship between him and Stamets, but. Clearly, at this point, that
it's kind of a weird.
They've
story.
resolved that, which is nice because they are really there. It's nice to see a functioning couple. It can be aggravating sometimes if there's just always drama between partnered people. Definitely appropriate at times, but not all the time, right?
Yeah. So I was looking at what was going wrong with their ship. All this stuff. I like how even when we were talking about how Reno, Jet Reno, that's her character's name. Even though sassy's not the right word at all, but I'm trying to think of the name to describe how she is.
Real quick, Tig Notaro said that
moxie.
In the script originally, they wrote the character for her, and
Moxie.
and in the script her name was Denise.
Denise Reno?
Denise Reno. And she apparently called up the producers. I don't know if it was probably Alex Kurtzman, and said, yeah, I'll do it, but can I not be named Denise? She's like, are you serious? And she came up with the name Jet.
I wonder if it's like after Joan. All I can think of is Joan Jett.
She said it was after Joan Jett.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
There you go.
This is all reported third hand from another podcast.
Sounds believable, though.
It does.
So, yeah, she's sort of her sort of in-your-face attitude. I wish I could think of the proper word for it. But she's still kind of wise, and she's helpful. She's caring. Like with Stamets, she was giving Stamets shit the whole time, but it was in a way that was basically saying, stop being so, like,
she gave him she said exactly what she needed to say to him.
Yeah, and she's basically like, he's like, oh, you're going to go up there? She's like, I'm not going to go up there. And he's basically like, what, you expect me to do it? She's like, no, get someone else.
Get Nielsen.
He's like, no.
Get Nielsen to do it.
Yeah, go get Nielsen. Why not?
Yeah, and so she treats him, like she makes it a journey for him, and that he, kind of, he doesn't like it, but, we get the impression that maybe part of him secretly does like it a little bit, but she makes it difficult for him. But yeah, exactly, like you said, just in the way that he needs to hear it. So,
they're going to be big best buddies.
So, yeah.
So, of course, he wakes up, we deal with him and Culber for a little bit. It's very sweet, it's romantic, and it's nice to see. And then we see that monster face guy, I can't remember what kind of alien he is, but he dies.
Okay, that's what you're talking about, monster face guy. Now,
he dies, and then that makes Detmer even more sad because she was piloting when he died.
And so this sounds a little specious of me, but when I saw that, she was like, oh, he's dead, or basically, and I was like, of course he's dead. His face is all smashed up.
And it's like, no, you're being specious there.
Yeah,
that's how it normally looks.
Yeah, he looked all like gored up, like, but yeah, he probably has some kind of mandible face.
Yeah, and Culber notices that Detmer is acting weird, right? Because she sort of walks past him, and he's like, "Hey," and she's just sort of blank.
Yeah, he seems like him and her seem like they're good buds.
Then we move on to this delicious conference in the captain's ready room.
Delicious conference
where Pike's old desk is all smashed up, and they're having this talk. It's Saru, Tilly, Commander Nan, and Giorgio, And Georgia's being such a meanie pants to Tilly.
Yeah, she is.
Oh, she's so mean.
And Tilly finally sort of has enough, and she's like, what
She's
the
like,
fuck?
oh, what the fuck?
And it sounds like
Yeah,
like she said the line, and they just kind of muted that part because it got weirdly silent when he cut her off.
It was an edit cut, and
Yeah.
I'm sure they said the line. They probably never intended to use it in this case. They don't mind a fuck here or there on the show. They can do that, but they save them. They
Yeah,
save them.
'cause
This was a comedy fuck.
It was a comedy fuck, and it was she was shushed or whatever by Saru, but yeah, it sounded like it shushed all the sound in the room. It just had a very sort of unnatural kind of quietness.
Tilly's had like 2 seasons worth of adventures, like, and she went through a fucking wormhole and she got bashed around with everybody else.
She went in she was running away
This
from.
bitch is telling her she's weak. Like,
I know, right?
And she was running through the mycelial network. I think, at
that's
one
right.
point,
She was doing that, yeah.
And her hair, I like how her hair is like almost a character, a silent character, because
keeps doing weird different things.
and they refer to like wanting to sell it, and then at the beginning, she's talking about how at the first season she's talking about how her mom, that's how she introduced the character of her hair was when at the first season when she goes, my mom wouldn't like my hair or something like that, and so her hair is fucking in your face, which is.
And then Mirror Tilly has
cool.
like different hair. It's not all curly.
Mm-hmm.
Straightened hair.
A little straightened out.
It's interesting how it's really interesting how I don't know how much of this was intended from the start, but Giorgio's character of, coming from the other place.
Yeah.
And, the original dimensions, whatever.
Plane of existence.
Yeah, whatever. That Giorgio died, and then this new one comes in. And
And just likes to beat the fuck out of everyone.
Yeah, that's the thing about Giorgio. It seems like she doesn't give a shit about like anyone or anything, and pissing people off makes her giddy, and she's happy to just fucking kill people.
She gives a shit about Michael Burnham.
Yeah, but
There's
like
certain things she cares about.
Yes.
Mostly Michael Burnham.
But if you're so giddy and happy and to kill people and say fuck you whenever someone, says comment on what you do, like she's commenting on Tilly, right? And Tilly knows part of why Tilly is so self-aware. And as Saru put it, you make a good first impression is because Tilly, when people comment on Tilly gets carried away, but when people comment on it, it makes her she's sensitive to it, and so she takes it in and tries to like consider that kind of stuff.
She grows and learns.
She grows and learns. She still gets carried away, but it's okay because she's aware of what's happening. Whereas Giorgio would be more the type where you tell her something that she's doing and she would respond with a punch to the face or something.
Yeah.
After a while, people are like, okay, fuck this, we're not going to do it. And but if you're going to be so happy about pissing people off and killing them, you have to be kind of unhappy and an angry person on the inside.
I think
to want to
that's
murder
fair.
people. Like she's got to be unhappy because just like, being so angry at the world that you would say, fuck everyone.
She grew up in a pretty fucked up universe, not to justify her genocidal
No,
behavior, because
right.
as people have noted, one awkward thing with having Giorgio as a character, and especially as a sort of a fun, comical side character, is that she was, by all accounts, in her original universe, a genocidal maniac. She was the empress of the Terran Empire.
Yeah.
And she murdered presumably thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, and now she's just kind of this aggravation.
Star Trek, like we said before, you can murder in the past, like with Doctor Who's a What's-Its from Picard, who was in that movie Goon, and Scott Pilgrim versus the World. What was her name?
Oh, Alison Pill.
Alison Pill. Like she, you forgive the murder, I guess, if they're helping you now. I don't know. Give people second chances. I don't know.
Doctor.
She killed one person.
Yeah, that's true.
Gelato.
And she felt immediately terrible about it.
Dr. Gelato.
And she felt immediately terrible. And Dr. Gelato. Is that what
Dr. Gelato. Dr. Spatzo.
Doctor, I am Dr. Spatzo. I don't know. You can tell me more about that, perhaps. But yeah, it's like...
Girardi.
Yeah, Dr. Girardi. That's what I said.
If you just like get glee in fucking people's shit up, you must just be so resentful of them, So I don't know.
And I will also add in, I think that Giorgio is very calculating. I don't think she's some sort of mega crazy, like, supernatural, whatever, but she's a calculating person.
She is.
And she does seem to she likes to push people's buttons. She likes to have a little fun. She's got a dramatic personality. It's served her well in previous employment. She's still, I think she's careful not to do things that are going to potentially mess up whatever her schemes are to move ahead.
I mean, you could argue that she's saying like what really pissed Tilly off is she goes she has as much psychic dominance as a kitten. That's what Tilly's like. What the fuck, man?
It's a really fucked up thing to say.
Yeah, but in her mind, maybe she's just either she's dismissing her or she's like, I gotta toughen her up in my own way.
I think it's both.
And if she can't handle it, then we'll fuck her.
It is an analog in some ways to what you were referring to with Jet Reno and Stamets. It's the Jet Reno method is also brusque and abrasive, but it seems a little bit more sincerely nice.
Yeah, abrasive is a good word.
I think with Giorgio, it's more about either way works. She can needle her, and it's fun. It might help her grow stronger. And if it doesn't, it's true. So from Giorgio's perspective, I'm not saying I agree with that, but I can see the philosophical logic behind that from somebody of Giorgio's particular, proclivities.
Yeah, and Jet Reno, whereas Giorgio is kind of like, make it or go away. Reno was what she said, the nice line. She goes, she finally stops and gets serious with him and says, helpless is a shitty feeling, but it's not forever, and it doesn't make you any less capable. So, and that was her being real. She I wouldn't say she hides behind. I mean, anyone who has that much humor does a little bit of hiding, putting up a wall, but at the same time, that's just the way she does things. But she is capable of sort of breaking it down and being real with somebody. So it's kind of like she took Stamets under her wing in a way, which is kind of weird to think about, but yeah.
She saw somebody who needed help and she helped him out. I did like the when Saru in the scene says, Tilly, you're gonna come with me, and Tilly's like, me, and Commander Nana's like, her,
yeah,
and then mouths, I'm sorry.
Yeah. What Commander Nan, was she in there from the start?
She was on the Enterprise, so she came over with Pike from the Enterprise.
Okay.
Early in season 2.
And some dude that died.
Yeah, that dude was a piece of shit.
Because if she reminded me, I was like, is that person on the short trek? And I was like, no, I believe it was the first short trek, which was Poe.
That was Poe. That's
Poe. And she has presumably joined the Enterprise or the Discovery. But do we see her again? I don't know.
In the second season.
In the second season, you see her briefly because we go visit her planet, and she helps the Discovery and Enterprise with some with some stuff to get the wormhole going.
Okay, so she didn't end up on the Discovery. She went back to her planet.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, she didn't come with them.
I was getting them mixed up somehow. Anyways, not important.
All right, well, so then this act ends with Tilly and Saru getting all bundled up in super cozy awesomeness and walking out the front door.
Yeah, it says there's sky dirt in the sky because that's where it lives. And then Tilly's like, kind of nervous, but she seems into it. And Saru's just all swishing away out there.
He's swishing his arms away. And then we open up on Act 2, and that's when we, where I put Act 2, when they start walking and doing that whole walk and talk thing.
Yeah.
Which for me was the best part of the episode. There were some other lines I really liked. The tear-inducing part for me this week. Last week it was towards the end of the episode, but this week it was right here. When, as you alluded to earlier, Tilly says, I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot because I'm scared. Saru says, I know, keep talking, Ensign. And then that's when my tears, my eyes got a little wet. And then the tears started coming out when he said the next line, which is, hi, Saru, thanks. No, I know. I actually don't have that line,
does he say keep talking, Ensign?
He says keep talking, Ensign, but her face, it's what more important to me is her face that she makes where she's just, you can tell that means so much to her, because it's like everyone always tells her, yeah, you need to talk less, and he's like, no, do the opposite, do what your initial impulse was, because your initial
what I was getting at before that hilarious podcast breakdown, I thought I was signaling. I thought I had this eyeball signal thing with Dan. I thought we were like beaming our thoughts together,
psychic powers.
And I was going to be like, what was that line that he said that was just like made the tears come out? And I was pointing at Dan, and what he would have said in this alternate universe was when Saru says, "You, Ensign Tilly, are a wonderful first impression."
Oh, okay.
Because that's where she that's where she starts to break down, because the first thing that he says about keep talking because you're scared, that's him accommodating her in an empathetic way, right? That's an accommodation. But when he says that, look, we are meeting new people, we don't know the deal, we're going to be making a first impression, and it's important to make a good one. And then he says, you, Ensign Tilly, make an excellent, a wonderful first impression. That's a compliment. That's not only a compliment of her as a person, it's saying you are useful to this mission, to our mission of survival. I've picked you not because I feel bad for you, not because I want to give you some experience, because I actually think the humanity you display is going to benefit us.
Yeah, I specifically do remember that line because that was basically what I was basing the stuff I was saying on. That was what I was basing the stuff I was saying earlier on.
With her reaction.
Yeah, and even early, 10, 15, 20 minutes earlier or whatever, when I alluded to it earlier. I can't remember if she gave the reaction after he said to keep talking or after he said you make a good first. It doesn't matter. When he says that too, once again, it's saying, trust your instincts. I know you're afraid. You're trying to filter yourself because people keep telling you to filter yourself, but you don't have to, because people are made comfortable by your nature because it's really honest, and we all have parts of us that we're trying to hide, and stuff that we have inside of us that we don't want to sort of people to know about because it seems like a weakness. But when you see that from her, and you see her awareness, there's something strong about that,
Absolutely.
And I
agree.
And it's easy to exploit. The problem is it's easy for someone to exploit something like that. But
and the acting on display I thought was really amazing. And, both of them are amazing, but when you consider that Doug Jones has to act through the Saru makeup and appliance and all that, and the vibes he puts into his body to just sort of emote this thing is really... It's wonderful to watch, and I thought it's the second episode in a row where they've had these moments that are really kind of like, whoa, that's some intense, awesome Star Trek-y type emotional shit that I'm getting to experience here.
So Tilly, she's been told all this shit, and then she takes it to heart, like I said earlier, and problem with Giorgio is she'll be told something and she'll just be like, fuck you, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, which has its own merits, but it's not good for this situation. I'm wondering, yes, when you were talking about how he's speaking through his makeup, I mean, he's probably a tall guy. I don't know exactly how tall, but he can't be that tall.
I think he's quite tall.
Is he? Because I was wondering how much they have to, if it's all just camera angles when they're doing up close conversations, or
up close conversation.
I think he's got weird footwear.
Yeah, I'm wondering.
Well.
I'm wondering how awkward it is for him to walk
hoofy type
around.
stuff.
Yeah,
I'm wondering how awkward it is for him to act through his whatever tall clothing is.
Well, he does a great job of it. So we see them walking towards there, but then we switch back to the ship, and Giorgio, Commander Nan are all talking, having this conversation, and the long and the short of it is we get to see Linus show up. And Giorgio is all, it's a good deflection for what happens later, because we just don't see Giorgio for a while, because they have her saying like, oh, Linus, your eyes can see all sorts of wavelengths.
She goes, you must have an enormous visible spectrum. He's like, 74,000 nanometers.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck that means either, but he tilts his head back and he's so proud of it. He's just like,
his little lizard teeth.
Yeah, he's so proud. He's so proud of it, and his eyes are all clicking when they blink. And it seemed like she was coming on to him, and like she was turned on by it or something. That's how she delivered the line.
Sorry, no.
He sneezed. Yeah.
Like in the previous season, like they get on a turbo lift and he sneezes on
that's
Linus.
Yeah, right. He totally sneezes because they made some joke about alien sneezing or something.
He sneezed a bunch of snot into the face of the dude who ends up getting killed because he's an asshole.
Yeah.
Oh, that guy. That's who it was.
So I don't know if we ever really heard much of his personality before. So he really displayed a lot of personality. He just seems
more personality here. But I guess what it was is Giorgio, the initial impression was supposed to be, Giorgio has some nefarious scheme to utilize this guy's eyeballs in the future. But while that might indeed be the case, it seems more like she was finding an excuse to peel away unnoticed so that she could then end up, as we see later, sneaking up on the bar action.
Yeah, it's because it's a weird thing to compliment someone on in that context, because it was kind of out of context that she complimented on his visible spectrum, which is why it was also weird, because I was like, is she like trying to flirt with him or something, and obviously for other purposes she didn't necessarily, but I didn't know. Maybe I was thinking, well, maybe she
Honestly, every time she talks to somebody, it sounds like she's flirting.
yeah, maybe she just wants, maybe she doesn't know at the time. She's like, I'm going to either, get mine going, or I'm going to just use this person to sneak away.
I think she behaves like somebody who suffered some serious trauma and has not worked through it in a healthy fashion.
Yeah, it would be a weird thing to compliment someone's eyes as something that, makes you want to, because I was thinking, it's like, what does he need the eyes for during, some kind of coital behavior?
No, it's just funny that you immediately thought that she was trying to figure out how to have sex with him. I thought
it was a possibility.
She was going to use his eyeballs to spy better or something.
That didn't cross my mind at all. That didn't cross my mind at all.
That's what my presumption was.
Yeah.
I like yours is more fun.
Or like some kind of like find some chemicals in the, maybe find a settlement with
do some lurking around for the chemicals.
Lurking around.
That makes much more sense.
Well, so speaking of the settlement,
in lieu of sensors,
the settlement was a cool new environment. I thought that it evoked to me kind of like you're always talking about the matte paintings, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
This really evoked, even though it didn't look like a matte painting, it seemed like something out of TOS.
Yeah.
In terms of we're at some kind of shady, partially broken down mining colony built into the cliff sides and into the floating space dirt, as you put it.
Yeah, because you got all the space dirt clumps in the sky, very understandably appearing like they're still, even though, they're not. But
Space comes in the skies with diamonds.
With diamonds, which are forever.
Dilithium crystals.
Dilithium, they've got dilithium, they just need rubidium. But then the other map painting when they left the scene, when it showed that it was some kind of weird mountainside, kind of like something that when it showed the opposite angle of the weird settlement itself, that also kind of had a sort of a matte painting vibe to it. So which
helped play into this whole brief sojourn into a Western motif.
Yes.
Fairly subtle. I mean, some people are arguing it wasn't that subtle. I thought it was relatively. They were using Western tropes.
It wasn't over the top,
but it wasn't. A fistful of potatoes.
Spurs. Spears.
So wait,
he had spurs, and that I think he had something was jingling and jangling.
Yes, so something was jangling, and for some reason I always assumed that was spurs in westerns. But is that what jangles on cowboys and westerns? There's spurs. Why would spurs jangle?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Otherwise, why would there be
your
that
spurs from jingling and jangling?
How about you, Lash LaRue? Think you can keep your spurs from jingling and jangling?
Oh, that's proven point settled.
That's what the wolf says.
Yeah.
That's
point settled.
To John Travolta.
So that was, I didn't look
Fiction.
Like, it didn't look, it's, I mean, that settles it for me. I'm not even joking. That's.
My name's Paul. This is between y'all.
Yeah. What he say is like, then why'd you fucking ask me, you fucking asshole? But there was the saloon doors, the clanky boots was a lot. Even the guns, though, the guns were...
Okay, maybe it wasn't as subtle as I initially thought.
The guns were almost like, they were some kind of shot...
They were like from the movie Cowboys and Aliens.
They were... I never saw that movie.
They were dumb guns.
They were weird lasso shotguns. So they looked like... The guns and the bar people had, too, had more like blastery looking... fun
semicircle blasters, zap zap zap.
They had more rootin' tootin' kind of guns where you're like, hey, choom choom choom, as opposed to, let's face it, Star Trek phasers are only intimidating because you know what they do, but they're not. It's like you're turning off a television.
They did a good job. I think it was on an Enterprise. They've done it elsewhere as well, but I seem to have some recollection from Enterprise where they did a good job of, sometimes people would like pull out a phaser and they'd be like, "What's that?
Yeah,
is that a weapon?"
Yeah, I think when Quark went back in time.
Quark!
So, but they had those weird invisible transporter walls, right? Now,
I like that.
That was basically what was in Picard, except these were probably smaller and more portable and better somehow.
Yeah, you walk past a certain point. What I thought,
but that's what happened in Picard, though, too.
But they went through arches. They were like defined arches,
right.
Whereas this was a hidden cave. And what was cool about that was we're in the future. We know it's future tech. But what it evokes is there's a lot of mythological stories that have caves as entrances to a netherworld or to an alternate plane of existence.
Totally.
And that's what this looked like. It looked like somebody going through some Lord of the Rings type, and then transferring to someplace else. Don't yell at me. I know it doesn't happen in Lord of the Rings. I'm a big fan of Lord of the Rings.
They got transported to the Wild West.
Yeah. This is one of my favorite interchanges when she goes, my name lacks authority, and Cal is like, what? And she's like, what?
This guy Cal was great. I'm sorry to see that he died quickly, although it makes sense narratively, because I'm starting to get the impression that the overriding message, the overriding philosophy for this season is to demonstrate that modeling good behavior is an effective way of spreading good behavior. I think that's what they're trying to say with this season. You can quibble about whether or not that is realistic, but I do think it fits very much into the Star Trek philosophy, and going to the future gives us that opportunity to say, okay, these people, Saru and Tilly, are acting like Starfleet officers. Cal has been waiting and hoping for Starfleet officers, similar to Mr. Sahil last week, right?
Yeah, and Book even sort of introduced the idea about these weirdos walking around that had Starfleet badges or whatever, and they seem like some kind of weird eccentric people, but they believed in some kind of pointless thing. It's like, how is this relevant now? But they stuck to it.
The myth is important. That was one of the messages from last week, and this week repeatedly, it's not just here in this bar scene, repeatedly, particularly around Saru, we see examples of, no, we're doing it the right way. We're doing it the Federation way. We're doing it the Starfleet way. And again, forget about the real world implications of that. Like within the context of Star Trek, that is good modeling. They're not doing what Discovery and other modern Star Trek shows have often been accused of, which is like undermining the Federation and saying the Federation is actually weak and horrible and terrible. They're doing the opposite here. They're saying, no, the idea of it is good, and we act that way and we can influence people. With the main example being that Cal's friend, Osir, I think was his name, the bartender.
Yeah, it was Osir.
Initially being like, fuck these people, get rid of these people. We need to stick to our own. Cal, you and your Federation nonsense is crazy. And with that brief interaction they have and seeing how they behave, he completely changes his mind and ends up basically becoming a convert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, within that whole that whole scene, not the scene, but the whole location.
They were there for like an hour?
Yeah, presumably something like that. Yeah, and Tilly quoted the regulation 256.15 that officers shall display behavior befitting an officer at all times. But then there's the Tilly honesty where she's like, this is actually really fucked up, you guys. I'm scared, we're scared, but this is how we are. So that's like kind of like exactly played into Saru's like you're strong, but you trust yourself. You can show that you're vulnerable if you're strong about it. But the way that whole thing where Cal, I think it was Cal who said, yeah, see, this is how they are. They just like to help people. It almost felt like they were living by some like how we look at samurai or something.
Yes, that's a great analogy. Yeah. What he said it's a part of them. It's how they are. Thinking that is an immutable part of being a Starfleet officer is being noble and honest and true and all that. And
even though our impressions of samurai, are probably skewed over time for what they really were or whatever, but we have this idea of
it's the ideal
of like samurai and knights, these honorable sort of samurai gets a little bit they get a little more credit than knights do, but they're all just samurai and knights, they were just like soldiers. But anyways,
it's an analogous kind of thing of you're wandering hero and they come to a town and they stand for something and they help out the people and
exactly like kung fu or something.
This is related to what we discussed a little last week about the sort of the analogy to the Federation and the myth of America, right? The United States myth, which we've never lived up to the myth ever. But the idea that it exists, even if parts of it were constructed for propaganda purposes, the fact is that those...
most of it is constructed.
Yeah, fair point. But over time, those can transform into people saying like, well, no, that's we were told in kindergarten this is how it is, so we're going to start voting to make it more like that, right? In theory, that can happen. And I do think that we saw a little of that in last week's episode, and in this week's episode, it's a similar kind of thing where this fella Cal, he's dead, but Osir, he's alive. His compatriots are alive. He's going to tell them what happened, the ones who managed to escape, and probably maybe we see Osir again. sometime later in the season, and he comes in and helps them. And I'm kind of thinking we'll see. It's early days yet, but I'm thinking the end of the season might be they're getting a lot of people together that they've met along the way and helped, and that's going to help them out in the end.
That would go along with the idea that it's how one presents themselves, and sort of leading by example in terms of that kind of honor. Whereas Giorgio wants the short-term fix, which is very practical and immediately practical. But in the long term, stuff like this that doesn't have an immediate effect that's risky and could cause problems. But I mean, like Osir converted. He Zara threatened him, and his family at the end there, and he just put his gun down. So it would be cool if at the end, like, some of this stuff sort of came around and was like, see, you need to think in the future. Don't think about your immediate satisfaction, because that can strip mine an ideal, and just make it worthless.
Well, and it can also backfire on you, because now you might have people who are seeking revenge on your ass and chasing you across the universe. Although I guess that can happen if you're a good guy too.
Yeah, I don't know. I was curious how they were like, you've never heard of Zara? They already know these people are crash landed on this planet. I mean, how Zara's a courier that just basically fucks people's shit up and makes them, he's the one who gets them their shit. Why would they necessarily have heard of this guy? I guess they don't have warp travel, so I guess word travels fast. So they can't go around.
I think that what we're dealing with is that they've got faster than light travel, like quantum slipstream, and maybe a couple options, but they seem that they're not as good or as efficient as warp drive. They clearly are just, you're not able to as easily flit around the universe like you used to be, flit around the galaxy. So I think we're dealing with smaller neighborhoods.
Yeah,
I think there's smaller neighborhoods.
And they didn't have the long range communications,
sensors and communications.
It's just a few sectors.
They can't go past 30 sectors.
Well, so I think briefly let's mention that these miners, most of them are Caridians or Caridonites, is where they were
got big faces
previously referred to. They've been referenced before on TOS and Journey to Babel. I don't remember if we see any, but I know that they're referenced. I can't remember. It's been a while. In Enterprise, they show up. It's actually a very interesting episode of Enterprise called Shadows of Pajem, where the Cordonite planet is sort of stuck in between a cold war between the Andorians and the Vulcans.
In a hard place.
And they're also referenced on Deep Space Nine in one little ship. So they're a race that's been around for a while. I don't think we've seen them too much, but they've been around. We definitely see them on Enterprise and interact with some of them. So I think kind of nice to see. We always like to see existing alien races, which is cool. And then we get introduced to Zara, who I should first note was played by. Do you know who he's played by? Do you recognize this fella?
No, but he seemed like some person I've perhaps seen before.
Yeah, he's a guy I can't remember his name. He's been in various things, and he's a British guy.
He's a British actor named Jake Weber.
Jake Weber, that right.
And he was, I think, probably people out there might know him from Medium, because he played the husband on Medium, which was that, I think, Patricia Arquette show where she played a psychic or something. He was in Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. It's the remake of Dawn of the Dead, of course. He was in Meet Joe Black, which I think was also a remake. Zara is a cool character, stock character in some ways, but I like the rough and tumble. And then he's like trying to use all these big words.
Oh yeah, was saying like the Vidrash has officially reached its nadir.
Yeah, nadir.
Nadir. Sorry, nadir. That's different. Vidrash has corrected my pronunciation.
I didn't. Did I?
I pronounce cacophony. I pronounce it cacophony.
Yeah, cacophony.
I thought you said cacophony.
I probably did. I think you can say cacophony or cacophony.
Yeah, it's either way. But you're probably right. It's nadir. It's not nadir.
I think you may be able to say nadir.
Abed Nadir. That's why I was probably
from Community.
That. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's Vidrash has officially reached his nadir. It's Ralph Nader. And yeah, that's when Giorgio all got on his shit. But the Vidrash, I was looking up trying to figure out what is the Vidrash.
It's a pigeon version of Federation.
Okay.
The Federation.
There it is.
That came up. He was just speaking.
They use that term. They use that term on one of the short treks. That again is semi-connected.
Yeah.
Semi, but not 100%.
Okay. Because he was wondering why the dude didn't understand the pigeon language, but he already established at that point that they were time travelers.
Yeah. So I thought that was a bit of a goof up. I was like, yeah, of course they're not going to know. But he maybe. No, he knew. He saw the wormhole, and I did what I did like. I did get mildly annoyed at that one part because I was like, "You come on," but I did like that he kept saying like high energy, gamma and gravitational waves,
Yeah.
and saying it all sinisterly
well,
because he was
yeah.
saying like, I know the deal before he even mentioned it. He was conveying to them. He's like, I know what the fuck happened. We're not like really dumb people here.
So yeah, he was saying there was high
Kind of dumb.
prior to the wormhole. There was high energy gamma rays, gravitational waves, right? And it's also he knew because they didn't have modern tech to fix. It's one of those things where like this will fuck your world up back in the day, but now we just use programmable matter to
They didn't have,
which
that
is
programmable
awesome.
rubidium.
Now it was talking about gravitational waves, but Jet Reno from the I think it was Jet Reno was talking about it was when they were getting fucked up from going through the wormhole. They were like, "Oh fuck, getting fucked up," and she was like, "It's tidal forces from the wormhole, which is nastier than G forces." So
I also think I mean, I don't know. I was thinking sort of like temporal tidal forces maybe
Yeah.
mess with your brain more because it's like time shearing as well as, space.
yeah, and how does that relate? She says it's nastier than G forces, but then he was already talking about gravitational waves, and G forces is just
Yeah.
gravity.
Well, regardless, we know we know he was an English major.
Or I guess it's the
wherever he
force
went
of
to school.
gravity. G force is the force that is not actually gravity. It's like how it's like
It's acceleration.
well, yeah, but it's the force you feel but G's referred like 2 G's. It's just a measurement, I guess. 2 G's refers to twice the okay, whatever. Anyways, yeah. So tidal forces. Do you think it's temporal tidal forces?
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be.
Could be. I'm going to quote you on that.
But okay, so that basically closes out Act 2, and then Act 3 starts up, and the Act 3 and 4 are kind of compact acts. The bulk of the episode was the first 2 sections, and then the kind of powers through the last 2 bits. So first, Zara lays out his plan to cannibalize Discovery, and he's being all sinister about it. But he doesn't know about Giorgio lurking around in the background, and Giorgio comes in. And he's immediately insulting her. He's immediately underestimating her, which shows that whatever experience he has, somebody comes at me and has the attitude of Giorgio, I'm probably going to be like, oh, what the hell is going on here? This person seems pretty fucking intense.
And he was all
confident.
like, he's like, you have
Pretty sure of herself.
you have a backup of one woman.
Yeah, he's like, you have like a one-woman tactical team?
Yeah.
It's like, come on, man.
Come on, guy.
Come on.
Come
That's
on,
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
And of course, he starts jabbering on with his English major business, and she says, "A fancy vocabulary doesn't mean you're scary. It means you have a thesaurus."
yeah.
It reminds me of a line earlier where when she was talking with Saru and Tilly, and Tilly was giving the report, and she says, "This is like reading an obituary backwards."
Yeah, I thought that was great. That was a great imagery.
They're giving her a lot of great lines.
And all Tilly said is she said can't bake a peach pie with a gazpacho recipe, which that's what her
right.
Grammy said. But whose Grammy has ever said that? Nobody said that.
It's a future Grammy from the 2200s.
Yeah, it seemed like Tilly was into Kyle.
Her Grammy was probably from the 2100s.
Do you think people who are prone to cook peach pies would have a high probability of making gazpacho?
No, I don't think so. But maybe in the future.
And thereby having the recipe handy?
Well, Starship Troopers wasn't there some...
Oh, well, no, you're right. If Starship Troopers...
Yeah, I mean, they lived in some different places than we'd expect. So
they fought bugs.
They lived in like Argentina.
Yeah, so it's like maybe the food cuisine is
fair
combining.
Point. Fair point. You can always pull out Starship Troopers to make a cogent point.
Real quick, wondering about the dilithium. They're talking about selling the dilithium at the exchange. Do you think that's just like the mercantile?
Yeah,
Mercado?
I think it's like that. And
do you think it's the same place?
No, I think that proves it's a different planet because they would have called it.
Oh,
they would have called it by the funny local nickname,
Requiem or whatever.
Yeah.
The mercantile,
Mercado.
Their Mercado.
At least that was the impression I got.
That makes sense. That does totally make sense.
Because that's what I was thinking. I was like, well, they didn't call it that mercantile. They called it the
mercantile.
What they call it?
The
It's
mercantile.
The exchange.
Oh, the exchange. Yeah, they call it.
They're just it's the market.
Yeah,
I gotta go down to the 5 and dime.
So yeah, they had those shotguns. Why did they have such weak ass fucking like? They basically had weak tasers because even a taser will knock you out for a minute, but it seemed like they were just getting back up from this.
Well,
was it just to torture people? Is that
no?
the whole...
I can't. It's
they were like
almost,
lassos.
It's almost like a more advanced version of you can set your thing to stun or higher stun or kill or mega kill.
Well, then that means
it's more like you squeeze the longer you squeeze the trigger. I think your previous analogy to a lasso is
Yeah.
correct in the sense it's like a lasso or a shock prod or something where you can fuck somebody up with it, but you can also kind of just tease them a little bit.
It kills slowly. You don't really want a weapon that kills slowly because you're just. I mean, if you're tough enough like Giorgio, you're just gonna get pissed off. You know? It's like don't shoot a bear with a small gun. He's gonna come after you. Like
Right, exactly. Right. It's going to make them mad. So I understand phasers, set phasers to kill, set them to stun and all this. Seems like, the longer you hold it, the more likely they're going to die. But you got to be kind of sick to want to have a weapon like that because he killed fucking Cal.
Yeah.
Like in a torturous there's other people with guns that are blowing their guts and making their guts incinerate and melt in the air. And then he's got this fucking gun. Now, is it because he can't afford a real awesome gun?
Maybe the future is just a crueler place.
Maybe it's
I mean,
just
think
crueler.
about Klingon disruptors were always vaporizing people back in the day.
Oh.
The Enterprise stun kill settings was somewhat unique, not totally. I mean, look, you can't be somewhat unique. Unique means there's only one. I apologize again. I've made this error in the past. I apologize then.
Polynique.
It has not stuck with me, of course. You
Multi-unique.
cannot be... if it's unique, there's one. There's nothing else like it.
that's why it's
Unique.
Polyque.
Anyway, the Federation,
Poly,
Starfleet
sure.
style, having, different settings, other cultures have that as well. But it was also kind of like, we're the Federation. Of course we're going to have different settings.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like he should just be carrying around something that also just melts people.
They want it to look cool, and they want to convey that the future has a bunch of fucked up pieces of shit running around.
Well,
in
there's scarcity now, so I'm going to wonder if people have a harder time getting certain things because, for example, why didn't Zara have a pocket transporter? Maybe he did. I don't know.
Yeah, he might have. It seems like most people do, but I don't know.
But I mean, we only know that
Purposes
from
of the story.
We only know that from them going to the mercantile, and those are some couriers that have. Well, he was a courier. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't
And there's
matter.
beaming shields and things like that. So maybe you can't beam straight into the bar. You have to go through that thing. That's the only way to actually get in there. That could be.
Yeah, but there was the whole thing where he was telling Tilly that Tilly, you gotta I like you. You're gonna go back to this place. And then when it gets dark, you're going to forge a path back. First of all, that's saying you're going to fucking die.
Yeah.
But second of all, by the time their exchange ended, the sun was already going down. So she wasn't going to make it to that ship before the sun went down anyway.
That's a power move.
That is, yeah.
That is a power move.
And so he knew that the ship was going to die. He knew that she would die. He was probably just trying to fuck with them so he could get all the...
And
ransack the ship.
reduce their numbers, easier to control.
Because he could have just given them a pocket transporter to go. Too. I know you're saying that maybe they can't go through those doors, but then they just walk out the door, and they got a pocket transporter in the end, anyways. From Siri, who had one all along.
I bet you got to walk outside before you can use it because there's a dampening field or something.
Inertial dampers. No, that's something different. No, but I mean, even if you walk outside to use it, it's better rather do that than walk all the way to that fucking
Absolutely.
fucking place.
So the other thing I thought was cool in this little collection of scenes around here was, when we see them, Cal is helping, before he gets killed, he's helping fix their translator, and we see the reverse of what we normally see. We're used to seeing the Federation, the Starfleet people beaming down to a planet of nice people, and those nice people are like, "Oh my gosh, that technology's crazy!"
Wow.
And when Picard and crew or others would occasionally encounter somebody who is far more advanced, it was like this crazy thing. Oh my gosh, there's some far more advanced.
They were always
culture.
super advanced. They only use things with their mind and
Precisely. This was a reversal in that our crew that we're following is being amazed by their everyday technology.
Yeah.
And it's
programmable matters. Tight.
Yeah, it's like when Marty McFly goes to 2015 and he's just walking around and is like, holy shit, these sneakers come on automatically.
Yeah. Or when he goes back in time to 1955 and they're like, nobody has more than one television.
Yeah.
So reruns. It wasn't too clear why Zara killed Cal. I mean, he was just being a dick, basically, because what they said was that Zara found out that Cal fixed their shit, the time traveler's shit, and that pissed Zara off for some reason. It's not clear why that pissed him off. Maybe it's just that he thought Cal was withholding information or
It's
something.
a control. The guy is clearly a cruel bastard, and Cal even referenced that I guess it was brother or somebody used to deal with this guy. This guy is.
I mean, the guy was like, "How's your family?" And Cal was like,
Yeah.
So he probably fucked him up.
Yeah, exactly. This guy's a piece of shit, right?
Yeah.
And he's not a complete idiot, right? As Giorgio is basically sussing out his plan, she understands that he's worried about other people. He's only got so many people with him, so they can't, they're trying to be as tough as possible to have the upper hand, which, as we soon see, they lose very quickly. I liked Michelle Yeoh just fucking going nuts on all these people.
Yeah,
I liked when she told that guy he's going to get you killed, and then she breaks his fucking neck with her legs.
Yeah, so it's like, I killed you, but it was really
his fault.
It was his fault.
He made me do it.
Yeah. I kept wondering, like, though, when she was saying, don't you want to know, like, why or how or whatever? And the guy's like, how? I guess it depends on what kind of mercenary you are, but usually a lot of these villain guys are just like, I don't give a fuck how it's going to happen. You're going to die. But, like, that guy kind of walked into her.
And she already knew they had her weapons were slow acting.
Yeah, slow acting to acting.
She's like, I can kick all these motherfuckers' asses.
And then when they hit and when the fight scene started, that felt like a Western too, because they're all, I mean, it's
tossing, literally jumping over bars, smashing glasses on heads.
Right, yeah.
I totally retract that earlier. I was like, oh, they did such a subtle job with the Western. I'm like, I'm a moron.
No, you're not, Patrick.
I'm a dumb guy.
Don't say that about yourself.
I'm a dumb guy.
You need to have confidence about your first impressions.
I'm so confident in how dumb I am.
Oh.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
I don't know. I'm so dumb.
I'm so dumb. And I'm too scared to find out. Yeah, they need no Gutsplosions guns, but
But they kill everybody basically, and send Zara on his way.
They should have killed him. I bet he comes back.
He probably will.
But let's take predictions here.
Unless he just dies in the ice.
Prediction 1, do you think he comes back? And prediction 2, do you think he comes back as an antagonist or in a weird twist as a guy who also is like,
a very good question. Yeah.
Ooh, maybe these people are good, and I've got to maybe the Federation's coming back.
Maybe he learned his lesson or something.
I don't know. I think if he comes back not as an if he comes back. And if he comes back not as an antagonist, I don't think he comes back as good. I think he comes back as one of those neutral parties. It's kind of like his own thing, but he knows who the smart people are, and he knows the better bet, and the better bet is to go with these Federation people.
I'm wondering how. I mean, it's difficult to measure, but I'm wondering how many.
He would be. Neutral bad?
Neutral chaotic?
Neutral chaotic? Chaotic neutral? Chaotic neutral?
Chaotic neutral.
Maybe.
I'm wondering how many people that folks like Zara have encountered that have treated them the way Saru did. Mm-hmm. Where Saru himself, wasn't going to commit violence on him after it was necessary.
Zara's never treated anyone like that.
Precisely.
Probably,
and Saru also stopped Giorgio from doing that. Mm-hmm. And he knew Giorgio could easily have destroyed him at that point.
And Giorgio just respects Saru enough, I guess, or she knows smart enough
strategically knows that she's not going to get her anywhere. Yeah. And then Osir has the opportunity to get his revenge for something that just happened. The brutal slaying of his compatriot, and he opts to go the Starfleet way and say, you know what? It's not right to kill him. We'll give him the same deal he was going to give Tilly, which was you have the right to go free. We're going to take your ship from you, but you can go. That was a little confusing to me because Saru said, we'll leave his ship here for you, but then they let him go. So isn't he just like going to walk to his ship and fly it away, or what? Or is he just going to get eaten up by the monster ice?
Maybe they took his keys.
They have like the 8-ball or whatever that the Z for Zed again. Pulp Fiction.
Yeah,
Zed's dead, baby.
I had to crash that Honda.
I had to crash that.
He had to.
Sorry, baby. I had to crash that Honda.
He had to. He didn't have a choice.
That scene, that act basically ends with Saru saying, this is not who we are. I mean, that's not how it ends, but that's the conclusion of that.
And that's the scene where Saru has his former ganglia now turned darts.
Super
shoots him
psyched.
at-
And when Zara, did you notice when Zara was leaving, he had like one or two of them still stuck in his arms?
Oh no, I didn't.
And when he's like, he's all walking out looking all pissed off and looking all sort of meek and sheepish, and then he's just got some Saru spikes sticking out of his shirt.
The shot of him leaving, where he zaps away, Zara leaving, that was kind of reminiscent, almost of an anime or something. Like just this scene of this mysterious sort of character disappearing off into some sort of sci-fi fantastical shit, which also probably draws from some kind of Western stuff too. But like it was cool to watch him kind of like hunkering away, and then he's like shoot, and he's gone.
All right, then we enter into Act 4, which is the sort of the conclusion of the episode where everything comes to a head, and we see the fruits of the labors. Where they get back, they get the communications fixed, they get the power. Stamets with Jet's help eventually gets the what was it, the power coupling.
So what he had to do is he had to disengage the infuser matrix, according to Reno.
Yeah.
That was
that's right.
That was some techno. And then she said some lines to that girl, that officer, whatever, that came up and was like, "Need help?" She's like, "Knee plus ultra of personal satisfaction." So I'm guessing she was kind of like giving her some kind of sarcastic lip.
She was giving her some shit.
It's like, of course we need.
I think that
help.
was Nielsen. I think that was
Nielsen, yeah.
What?
She used to play Ariam, the actress.
No, the word is she said knee plus ultra.
I think that's the one.
She said knee plus
yeah.
ultra.
That's some sort of hippie business.
Yeah, I'm not
Okay.
refuting that, but when she was saying like, yeah, get Nielsen, she could get Nielsen up there. She could do it, and then I think that was Nielsen. I think that's the other person in engineering that's standing by.
I like when Culber shows up and
yeah.
and he's all like, "Paul, you're in a Jeffries tube."
Yeah, and then he was all.
Well, that's what I do.
And I can't remember which one of them was all tricked because they. Oh no, it was. What's her Nan, who was like, I thought Linus was coming down here, and then Reno was without batting an eye. Is like, oh, you believed her. You believed Georgia because she said Giorgio said Linus was coming down here to help, and then instead of Reno being like, oh, that motherfucker, she was like, you believed her. Okay, good on you. Like meaning like She lied. Giorgio lied, and instead of the point being, instead of Reno using it as an opportunity to be angry, she uses it as an opportunity to like give someone some like sarcastic, jokey lip, make him feel silly. But so
it all wraps up pretty quick.
Yeah, so the steps he went through is he used the multi-tool to open the compartment. Stamets did. The Lilu multi-tool.
Lilu Dallas multipass.
He removed.
I know it's a multipass.
He removed the infuser matrix. He pulled out the damaged anodyne circuit, which was basically a printer ribbon.
Yeah, you got to do that.
And then he
can't keep that in there. It was all garbled up.
And then this is known as a stack of events, which is first in, last out. Yeah, that's a stack. Yeah. A queue is first in, first out. A stack is first in, last out. So the first
this is a Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a stack of events. So the first was the remove the
It doesn't sound like Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, you got because you have instants, sorceries. The stack when you're like I cast an instant. And then you cast an instant,
I see.
And then somebody else casts an instant on top of it, and goobly gobbly goobly
So
gobbly.
you keep countering each other.
Until you resolve it.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, a queue is FIFO, and then a stack is Philo. So the first in was to remove the infuser matrix, then pull out the damaged anodyne circuit, and now you're taking it off the stack. You're going with You're taking the last in, first out. You pull out the anodyne circuit and
keep going. You keep recounting,
and you replace it with a new one. And now you're back to the infuser matrix, and you replace that.
Dan's going to retell it all.
And then something happened. They knew it worked because, the lights went on, but then this floaty thing... that
floaty thing
what was that? Was that a robot?
That was there the whole time. Jet Reno had a bunch of those last season.
Yeah.
Were those robots? Helper bots?
Yeah, those were her robots. That's where she was seeing the video feed from.
Oh.
They actually gave us a reason, unlike in someone where the previous assumption in certainly in Star Trek The Next Generation, the assumption is just like there's constant surveillance everywhere you go because they can always see you from multiple angles.
You see those things when you meet Jet Reno.
Yeah. They're her friends.
They're her friends. Okay, so those were already working. Those weren't fixed, but everything else was fixed. So, but it was just moving around. So, yeah, and then
it's fixed.
Everything was fixed.
everything was fake. Who are these repairmen?
These people.
I think Stamets and Jet Reno should get a YouTube show where they demonstrate fixing various parts of starships in a dry and banal manner, ideally with no music.
She's abrasive and dry.
And no editing.
Yeah.
I love watching those fix it ones. The people who know who most know what they're doing in terms of fixing something generally have the least amount of editing finesse.
But they got skill. That's the thing is you got people with skill. They always need someone who's got some
flash,
some
finesse.
Because it's rare that someone has both. It's possible. It happens all the time.
Giorgio has both. She
kicked those people's ass. Did you notice Saru did some kind of thing when he got them? He did some kind of like when she took out a bunch of people, but he did this thing. He did some kind of single-handed head whammy skull crush on one of the guys. It's real brief. You don't see it, but for a brief second.
Is that when he takes somebody's gun?
Well, he takes the gun first, and it's awesome to think that Saru is just casually overpowers people.
Yeah,
because
he's very strong.
Yeah, you're used to him being kind of, whatever. But then, and this was after this. This is after Giorgio, messed a bunch of people up, and then he like put his hand on someone's face and just kind of threw him, and I couldn't tell him if he was crushing their face.
Yeah, he just grabbed their face and hurled them across.
Yeah, or if there was some kind of combined, how Spock has the magic, the magic of the Vulcan neck pinch or the mind read. You can say it's not magic, but it seems like magic. Does he have some own? Do the Kelpians have their own kind of mind skill?
I think he can just palm a basketball.
Okay, yeah.
And so he can also palm a person's face and hurl them across the...
Did you ever see that Kids in the Hall sketch where the guys go like, I'm crushing your head.
Yeah.
I'm crushing...
I saw, there's a few of them.
And then when he crushed some kid's head, he's like, oh, I feel so bad. I crushed the kid's face. What have I done? But he's just like putting his fingers up to his eyes, the perspective that Saru didn't do that.
I do respect the thorough explanation.
Everybody knows what you're talking about.
Yeah,
everybody listening knows what you're talking
about. Kids in the Hall. Yeah, if you watch Star Trek, you probably know what Kids in the Hall.
I don't think you need to watch Kids in the Hall to understand the "I'm crushing your face" meme with the pinchy.
Well, if anyone was wondering how did they crush people's heads, But right. I guess
if any of y'all are wondering that out there.
I guess
now you know.
I guess when I got to the point where I said, "Oh, he puts his fingers up to his eyes," and it looks like I didn't have to start talking about perspective and stuff at that point.
You can talk about whatever you want. That's the podcast form.
The podcast form is the place
flexible
where you talk.
and free form style.
Aww.
You can convey all sorts of information.
We're just bebopping and scatting.
Yes,
we're bebopping and scatting,
shimmy shammering and doodle bopping.
We're jingling and jangling.
Scat cakes. Apparently silos maintain their atmosphere, and that's what Zero was going to blow up. He threatened about a series like
he's like, they're gonna suffocate. They're gonna be gasping.
Yeah,
dude, I think you've already lost at this point. Come on, you're getting a little desperate. So to wrap it up, we then, of course, at the very end, the Discovery is fighting desperately to try to get out of the monster ice that's eating them.
That monster ice started to move fast at the end there.
And Detmer is all freaking out, but she's trying to do a good job, but she's still a little, out of sorts, which we will, I guess, learn more about in the coming weeks. And then ship shows up, tractors them out, and lo and behold...
Well, real quick. Why did Reese assume that the vessel approaching them was an enemy vessel? Like, he just was like, enemy vessel approaching. They just assumed it was an enemy vessel,
I agree, and you shouldn't make those kinds of
assumptions. And Giorgio
decisions.
did too, but I appreciate how when the ice fell, it looked like it was falling at the proper rate. It did, lots of ice from a distance.
Physics were good. Yeah. Effects were good.
Yeah.
I guessed that it was going to be Burnham. I don't think that was too much of a surprise.
Yeah. Michael fucking Burnham.
Necessarily. I mean, it didn't necessarily have to be, but I figured it made sense.
I still did a little hand pump. I still was like, I think I physically did like a little yes.
Did you do the Data style yes?
Oh no! Oh man, I totally had forgotten about that.
Yeah. Well, next time, do it that way.
I actually did the double finger guns pointing upwards thing. I was like, yeah. I was like, all right. I didn't even say anything. I was like,
no, it was good. The editing was good.
Silent
the timing was really good.
Pump.
Yes,
I thought it was fun, and of course she's got long hair. It was hilarious that Saru just had. It was so awkward. Like all he wanted to say was like, "Your hair got longer," but he was all like, "You look different."
I haven't cut my hair now for it's about a couple months until it'll be a full year, and it hasn't even hit my shoulder yet. Her hair was long for a year.
Honestly,
I thought it was going to be like 5 or 10 years.
That surprises me a little.
I haven't cut my hair in like 4 or 5 years, and that
Are you eating enough broccoli?
I eat plenty of broccoli.
I think your hair should. I think if after a year you should have longer hair than that.
I mean, maybe it's just kind of growing out.
I don't know.
Do you think something's wrong? How long does it take for your hair to get shoulder length?
I got a haircut a while ago.
You did, and it's shoulder length again.
It could be that I'm dying quicker than you.
Well,
like my dead cells are squeezing their way out my scalp and resulting in a luxurious long flowing hair.
Maybe I have like the sort of the antithesis of male pattern baldness, where it's the opposite.
Male pattern stableness.
Well, just
your hair just stays the same length.
No, where it's like all the hair around the side and back is falling out, and it's just that top part.
Have you noticed that your hair just stays the same length as you get older?
My front hair is pretty long. My front hair is pretty long. It's just my back hair.
It's long. Doesn't look anyway.
So maybe it's my problem and not Burnham's problem. But her hair was still pretty long.
So anyone in the audience, if you have any medical expertise that would help us determine if Dan needs to take some sort of special vitamin supplement.
Do I need more fiber or something?
I don't know what
might be more of a vitamin issue.
Yeah, I think it's a vitamin thing.
Do I have a vitamin deficiency?
I don't know. Maybe you have too much vitamin. Anyway, so it's cool to see Michael. It gets us. This was an exciting episode. Seeing Michael gets us excited to see the reunion next week and see where they move next. So all in all, I thought another exciting, interesting episode. The word on the street from the reviewers and people. The word on the street is people are digging this. They're digging this new direction, this new environment.
It's so beautiful to look at all the scenes.
The money has been put into it, the effort. So much of the special effects were done at home. I've been hearing stuff saying people are saying it actually worked out pretty darn well.
And you feel like there's less sort of uncertainty about what's going to happen, so people can commit to ideas a little better.
Something like that.
Season 1 was good, but it's like they would just drop ideas and then be like, it was like this, but actually it's something completely different now because of surgery.
This is the first season where, at least as far as we know, everything has been really smooth behind the scenes, despite COVID. In other words, a horrible universe-ending catastrophe is going on, and it's actually like, nope, we're still powering through, and everything's working out great. The only thing I wanted to mention beyond what we've already talked about was just that the use of Georgiou as a foil to reflect the values of the Federation. She's the example of she's on our side nominally, but she has the mirror universe attitudes, right? She has these other mercurial, kind of strategic, shenanigans oriented, as I think you put it.
She's a bad guy.
She's a bad guy. And as Dan put it, she's looking for the short term. Mm-hmm. She's got long-term plans of power, but she does kind of
immediate gratification.
She's biased towards those short-term strategies, or at least the seemingly more efficient ones that generally involve violence. But anyway, she's the mirror universe person, and she is a reflection, literally. I mean, she's the reflection.
Literally.
She's the reflection of Federation values, and having her there really helps with this. If the storyline of this season is about sort of bringing the Federation back together, or bringing it back into existence through some mechanism, and showing that this type of philosophy, when you model the behavior of this philosophy, that's a good thing. That's the seeming thesis of this season. Having Georgiou there, I think, is a really helpful way to illustrate that on an ongoing basis, because otherwise, the Discovery's not in a situation where they're necessarily going to be meeting all sorts of, we're going to meet all sorts of different people. Yeah, they'll do some of that, but having Georgiou there on the ship from, with some of the same goals in theory as the crew, shows you that you can make different decisions, and they're not necessarily, they might be good decisions strategically, but they're not the Federation way.
Yeah, I mean, because she was ultimately they were helped by the fact that she was sneaking around and following Saru and Tilly, in the background, because that's where her strength lies, in being kind of sneaky and making the decisions that
Section 31
and practical stuff that people don't want to take on the responsibility of okaying. They don't want to say that they were okay with that, but she does it, and it helps.
This is the microcosm of Section 31, in that the Federation does its thing, and then Section 31 works behind the scenes and does some dirty stuff to help the overall, in theory, good stuff. She helped Saru and Tilly out here.
That reminds me of the Garrick. What was the one where with the fucked up episode with Garrick and Cisco, where Cisco's narrating
in the pale moonlight.
In the pale moonlight. They used the word garrulous at one point in this episode, and I was thinking, like, was that Garrick? Did they name Garrick as after the word garrulous?
They might. I hadn't considered that ever.
I don't know.
Garrick is one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, because he's kind of garrulous, you know.
He is garrulous.
But you got to give him. You can't call him garrulous.
Scurrilous.
Scurrilous, exactly. He's scurrilous. So.
I just made that up.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It is.
That's what you were waiting
Tis
for.
the season, as they say, as we're recording this in late October.
Yeah,
2020. Hopefully, we'll be here next week.
So they really are giving her a really front and center role in these.
So far,
episode, yeah.
So far, we'll see. I don't know, because sometimes they might have her be all like, "All right, I'm going to go have an adventure somewhere," and then she'll show up later, or maybe she'll be with them along the whole way.
Yeah,
I like that it's hard to predict. There's no immediate direction. I mean, you can watch the preview and get some ideas, of course, but it's an open world, and they could go in a lot of different directions, and it'll be very interesting to see how it works out. I think we're gonna meet some future Starfleet people, if not next episode, certainly very soon. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
So far, again, I enjoyed this. I've enjoyed the first 2 episodes. It was interesting to see them split. This was an almost no Michael Burnham episode. The previous episode, of course, was only Michael Burnham, giving us a little bit of different flavors. Excellent direction, excellent scenery. I guess we're all just going to buy plane tickets to Iceland once we're allowed back into other countries, as we are currently recording within the confines of 2020 United States of America.
Mm-hmm. Seemed like that settlement didn't have anything other than a bar, but I'm sure it had other shit.
Yeah,
I mean, they all sorts of work.
Most
They
important
had to have a
thing.
bathroom somewhere.
They must have had a bathroom somewhere. And 2 more notes. Why was the captain's chair all squiggling about when they were? Did it get dislodged from the floor? Or did it look like it was when you watch the opening scene? The captain's chair. It was stationary the rest of the episode, but when the ship was all flying about doing crazy things, unless the camera was tricking me, it looked like the captain's chair was on a track going left and right, swirling back at left and right.
I didn't notice that.
Was it like swiveling?
No, it wasn't swiveling. It was going like it was going sideways, horizontal,
Strafing.
Yes,
Strafing.
that's the only other time I've used that word outside of fucking Goldeneye or fucking.
You got to strafe. You got to strafe.
You got to strafe. That's where I learned that word.
Point number 2.
So when they saw that planet, just like with Burnham, even though it's pretty obvious that it was going to be Burnham, I did the 2 finger gun double pump, quiet, silent finger gun double sky pump. With this one, when I saw the planet, I did the opposite. I said, "What a weird planet." I said that out loud. What a weird planet.
Did one of your cats glance over and say, like, you're right. That is a weird planet.
And I was like, what the fuck? Gotta lay off this shit. But no, I agree. I think they're doing.
We should do a
cool
whole
things.
podcast. It'd be called like After the Pod or something, where we talk about it's just you talking about like what happens when you're watching the episode.
Oh, watching the watchers.
You can be like, you said, and then I did this, and then I did a double.
We could do a
That's
YouTube.
pistol
Let's do live YouTube sessions where it's just the camera's just on you as you're watching.
A reaction video?
No, I don't want to see your face. I wanted the camera to be from behind your dark silhouette, blocking out most of the screen.
So like MST3K without all the snark.
Similar, and then that way,
you can
and
have
we
snark.
see you like react and do exciting things, and eat some food and be all like, "No way,
Yeah.
you go Burnham,
You go.
awesome."
Awesome. I sure hope the burn isn't related to Michael Burnham's name.
Linus, you rascal.
What you would see is you'd see me like obsessively rewinding, hitting the skip back button,
And then when you actually
again.
find out it is from Michael Burnham's name, and then you start smashing your TV and you storm out of the room.
Is it fucked up that, like, for me, quite sincerely, the image of watching Dan not only watch a TV show, but watch him continuously rewind it and watch it over
stressful.
again?
Wait a minute.
To me, that would be the ultimate in sort of meditative entertainment.
It's definitely postmodern watching the Watcher.
Yeah, it's kind of.
It'd be similar to doing one of those.
Warhol or something.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
like one of the Japanese sand garden or something where you
I
just sort
see.
of carefully do that. You wouldn't be doing that. It would just, as a viewer, being able to sort of find a way to enjoy that would be a path to enlightenment.
Yeah, at first you'd be like, why did he rewind that part of all parts? And then you'd ask that, but after a while, you would just accept it.
It's like, what's he
Your
looking
reality
for?
is just like that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it would be a journey.
All right. Well, so
Stressful at first, I think.
that'll do it for us this week.
I liked it. I liked it
too.
I liked it as
I
well.
hope they keep it up because I
Keep those
prefer
balls
to
in
watch
the
Star
air.
Trek that's entertaining than Star Trek that either entertaining or really bad. If it's just sort of mediocre, that's sometimes the most depressing and the hardest to podcast about. It's very hard to podcast about something mediocre.
Yeah, there's nothing to say.
It's just like
If you hate it, you can be like, that was
talking
stupid.
about something else.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Hopefully next week it won't be a mediocre show. Hopefully it'll be a fantastic and exciting and entertaining episode.
Would you rather
of
be
Star Trek
fantastic
Discovery.
or funtastic?
Does anybody know what the title is for next week? Since we talked about how awesome it was since they were releasing them ahead of time.
Yeah, I know the title of it, and what the title is this. The title of next week's episode is People of Earth.
People of Earth. All right, they're gonna go to Earth.
Earth people, you mean?
Yeah. Welcome to Earth.
You know, it's season 3, episode 3, and it's People of Earth, which you can also spell the E with a 3.
And the Earth is the third planet from the sun. All right, so we're going to go think about that.
But you didn't answer my question. Would you guys rather something be fantastic or funtastic in this situation?
Funtastic. It's always funtastic.
Fun. I'll go with
I'm always
fun.
going for fun.
I like fun
as
too.
opposed to fan.
And we hope the audience
fun.
likes fun. So next week we'll be talking about People of Earth, the third episode of Star Trek Discovery. This week the coverage is now concluded. Now we will tell you our email address.
Better fun death than fan death, I always say.
Yeah, no doubt.
Korean Fan Death is a cover for suicides, mostly. So
That was
so
Thanks a lot, man. That's a bummer.
So you can email us at generally it would be feedback@itsgotstartrek.com. Do you guys concur?
I think that.
Yeah, I've heard that one before.
Yeah, that tracks.
That one works pretty well.
Feedback.
And then on
Feedback.
social media, we have a popular following on Twitter.
Everyone loves us. We're the
might as
greatest
well-
in the world.
You might as well follow us if you haven't already, because join the rest of your friends.
Nobody gets followed by more people than us.
It's not entirely accurate, but it's close to being accurate.
You just bend the numbers a
the
little.
spirit of accurateness is in that statement. So you can follow us
Accuracy.
on Twitter or Instagram by visiting at
It's got Star Trek.
It's Got Star Trek, @ It's Got Star Trek. You can search for us on Facebook. We're on YouTube. It's also, / It's Got Star Trek or whatever.
I think somebody followed me over here.
What? Creeping.
I'm creeping down.
That was fucked
He
up.
was like, oh no.
Because you're looking at the door and my back is to the door. I was like, what the fuck?
I
do you
thought that
do?
was going to be a dud. I thought you were just going to be like, what are you talking about?
No.
Stop ruining the podcast.
I looked for the door and I was like, there's no window. Then I looked at the window behind you and I thought I was going to see a fucked up face.
I still got it.
Tis the season, as I said. Happy Halloween, folks.
Halloween.
We're almost there. All right, so we'll see you again next week. Write emails and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Do all that good normal stuff. Like and subscribe and do this and that and the doodads. Dan, what do you think?
I think that we forgot that we're actually not doing next week's episode because we were going to review Hubie Halloween. Which I hear is actually not bad.
It's
for
a
Adam
Hubie
Sandler.
Halloween hiatus.
Yeah. No, just kidding. We're not doing that.
Well, we look forward to circling back with you on this topic and other topics, some of them related to Star Trek, at some point next week. Same Star Trek time, same Star Trek channel, as normal.
Star Trek.
So thank you very much. We hope you have a lovely evening. That'll do it for us. Did I do it?
Yes, you did.
You? Thanks. Jet? Thanks for nothing.
Back at you, Bobcat.
Bobcat?
I don't know, I'm on drugs.